Also, the alarm goes off when it opens. It flew open, and there were no footprints in the snow outside the door, and no one in the building.
Whether it's the building or the product brought in, it's hard to say. Maybe there's some urns in there that we're selling that God knows whose ashes was in it. I mean, given the fact you got 300 people bringing things in on a daily basis, and God knows where they come from.
All right, let's go back to the lab and get it going. There's a belief in the paranormal world that objects can retain the energy of their past owners even after they die. So we're reaching out to Rhett Rushing. He's an expert in paranormal theories to get his opinion. We're here in Bolo, Illinois. We're at an antique mall. You know, it's like a typical flea market type situation. People bring all their stuff. There's family heirlooms dating who knows how far back, all congregated in one spot. We have a lot of activity here. We have full body apparitions. We have footsteps. We have objects moving. So, Rhett, we're wondering what's going on here.
Well, I think very clearly this is a case of attachment theory. What it is where residual energy is attached to artifacts.
According to paranormal theory, spirits of the dead can sometimes remain attached to special objects they may have owned when they were alive. These spirits can then reportedly use the object to either manifest themselves or, in some cases, actually possess and curse the object. One of the most famous stories of a cursed object is that of a race car that killed a famous 1950s icon in a head-on collision. The engine of this allegedly possessed car was then sold to a man who put it into his own race car. Later, this race car spun out of control, killing that owner instantly. But the death and destruction didn't end there. A truck hauling the crushed remains of the race car lost control, causing the driver to fall out of the cab. He survived the fall, but then, moments later, the wreckage of the race car landed on him, killing him as well.
My experience as a museum professional, yeah, we see it all the time. We see, you know, objects moved, objects changing. We see shadows, smells. All this sort of thing happens as a result of an attachment to an object. And what you've got is perhaps a residual spirit presence or energy that's still associated with these artifacts. And, you know, when you bring them all together in a giant place, you're talking about ground zero for supernatural activity.
Coming up, the team attempts to capture an elusive spirit.
You see it? The shadow right there.
And makes an alarming discovery.
It's right here. Got his ass.
Will they catch their Shadowman?
It's the time to show the world who you are and what you're made of.
What you've got is perhaps a residual spirit presence or energy that's still associated with these artifacts.
We're going to do a lot of concentration on the DVR cameras because, you know, here you're talking shadow people, you're talking objects flying around. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to capture.
We got them on the thermal cam at GDC, but I want to see them on video.
Also, let our equipment work for us. So go ahead and get the temperature loggers ready. Just throw them out. We never know what you'll find. They're not going to work unless you put them out.
Yeah, we're going to use the motion sensors tonight because they hear footsteps upstairs in the barn a lot.
Electronic motion detectors cast infrared beams that, when broken by any movement, trigger an alarm.
We're trying to find out more about shadow figures here. That's why we set up motion detectors. Can they set them off? You know, if they do, that means that they have mass, and that could be a huge find for us. We're trying to gather as much data surrounding shadow figures as possible.
So we need to set these in certain areas where they heard this stuff. So it's business as usual for everyday paranormal. So let's get in there and kick ass.
The team cast their electronic net over the antique mall, wiring it completely with surveillance cameras, motion detectors, and data logging equipment, which will note any fluctuations in the environmental conditions. Next, they saturate the location with a series of baseline photographs to give them a basis for comparison if something were indeed to show up in the course of the investigation.
No one knows what shadow people are. When you see a shadow person, you know it is like they're three-dimensional. They move quickly. They don't have an area that they haunt. It makes our job difficult because you never know where they're going to be. I mean, this goes back like 18 years for me. I wouldn't say I have a personal vendetta against them, but it's a personal quest to kind of put some data around them to figure out, you know, how they exist, what they are.
We're about done with that area. We're good here. We're coming in.
Trap is set, net set, ready to catch a ghost. We'll go all the way up to the top floor.
Feeling frisky. Gonna find me a shadow person. Mr. Shadowman. Brad Kling, Everyday Paranormal in the house. How you doing? I don't know what it is about you shadow people that I like. For some reason, you become my personal quest to find, to figure out what you are. Now quit hiding in the corners and come out here and do something to tell me that you're here. I don't know anything. I think I got the intimidation factor. I think it doesn't want to come out.
Well.
Are you attached to some object in here? Are you mad that they're selling it as an antique? If that's you walking up there, you need to get your ass down here to me now. We got little trip wires everywhere, motion sensors. Did you make one of those suckers go off?
He's all back in the shadow.
I know he's all that. Yeah, that's all right. Shh. Did you hear something go thunk right here? Let's see what's back here. It's time to come out. This ain't the time to hide. It's the time to show the world who you are and what you're made of.
What's that?
What is that?
Oh, it's an alarm. Somebody set an alarm off.
No one's up here, dude.
It's right here.
Got his ass. It's time to come out. This ain't the time to hide. It's the time to show the world who you are and what you're made of.
What's that?
What is that?
Oh, it's an alarm. Somebody set an alarm off.
No one's up here, dude.
It's right here. It's open. The door's open.
How is it open?
We found the door was actually open. Now, what's strange, there's no one else in the building except me and Brad. The other thing is the alarm was actually turned in the off position.
It's off. The alarm is off.
We should really check our surveillance cameras by this door.
It's a cat and mouse game with those mother. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Shadow Man. See ya, Shadow Dude.
Barry calls Lisa, the antique mall manager, to see if she has any explanation for the sounding of the door alarm.
Is that something normal?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's very interesting. I never heard that happening before.
It's open. The door's open.
How's it open?
All right, thanks a lot, Lisa. Bye. So she's saying it's not normal. It doesn't happen that way. What was really strange about the alarm going off was that only Brad and I were in the building. And the alarm was in the off position. It could have been an electrical issue, but we didn't have the alarm key to reset the system and then test it again.
While reviewing the video surveillance footage of the alarm door, Steve Hawk finds some evidence he thinks could be significant.
See it? The shadow right there.
Right there.
That's it,
See
right there. Yep.
Shadow right on the side here.
Nobody was up there. You know, we actually caught a shadow figure moving across the floor, and it was very close proximity to where the alarm went off. Could that be a spirit actually leaving the building, or was it just a shadow of someone walking by? We don't know at this point. You know, we checked all the surveillance cameras. We didn't see any movement that would cause a shadow. But just to be sure, we're sending Steve Harris back up there to walk by and try to recreate the shadow himself.
Okay, I'm standing right by the bathroom door.
Okay, I need you to walk by the wheelchair.
Okay, right now.
You can see the shadow.
Yeah. You see the whole.
You see the whole. You see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Look at the movement.
Do it
Okay,
again.
do it again.
Look at the way the whole frame shakes when Steve walks by. Look at that.
And look at the lanterns are shaking.
Yeah, just from the vibration of several steps.
There's no way. In the original video, nothing moved. The shadow just passed by. It didn't interrupt or disturb anything in the area. When we recreated the shadow with Steve Harris, he basically shook the entire floor. The camera was moving back and forth. You could see chandeliers shaking. So we've concluded that there's no way that this shadow could have been caused by someone, because they would have caused all the vibrations and shaking. Once you've eliminated everything that you can think of, then you're left with possible paranormal activity.
Well, we learned a little more about shadow people tonight. We found out when this shadow moved across the floor, it was clearly in the area that the motion detectors were, and they didn't go off. So maybe it wasn't more of a solid form shadow, it was more of a traditional shadow.
It does lend itself to the claims that people have around here of seeing shadow people.
After reviewing all the data, something else catches Brad's attention.
You know that shadow video, obviously the alarm went off, the door alarm at the same time.
Yeah.
But looking at the data loggers that we put out, these are the temperature data loggers. One odd thing you'll note is the temperature pretty much stays in this area until right about this time when the shadow passed and the alarm went off. And literally they all jump up about 10 degrees and then they all level off again. Now, if this was an air conditioning system, you would think that it would be cycling in and out. That's what ACs look like on a temperature graph, but it didn't do that. It maintained a constant temperature, then wham. Now, does this have to do with the shadow that we saw walking in the area? Maybe. We've seen temperature fluctuations go the other way, go cooler, but you know, who's to say that it doesn't go warmer sometimes?
Well, you know, that's right there where the shadow came through. I can tell you this, the AC wasn't on because it was hot there in that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no air moving at all.
Yeah.
Following the completion of the investigation, Brad and Barry reflect on their findings.
You've always been after the shadow person. That's kind of been your goal in this whole paranormal business, you know. And we caught two different shadow people. We got one in GDC and we got one in Volo.
Yeah, you know, it's the one in GDC was very typical of what I've seen before and what I've studied of shadow people. You know, they're a certain height, they're three-dimensional, they're cold spots. You know, in the GDC we got the one 35 degrees. There was no explanation about it. Then Volo, you know, we got the shadow person, but you know, it had a 10-degree temperature rise. Mm-hmm. Now, if you think about it, the way the shadow happened in Volo, it wasn't really like that three-dimensional shadow person that I'm always talking about. You know, does this thing have mass? Is it a body? Is it a mist? Is it a form? You know, what is it?
Another big question is why. You know, at GDC we have remodeling. They've changed the entire building. That's when the activity seems to be picking up. Volo, it's a little different. It's more of a detachment type situation. We have hundreds and thousands of knickknacks and antiques and heirlooms. So I'm leaning more towards attachment in Volo.
So we caught two shadows. I'm psyched, I'm pumped, I want to find more. The more data we can put around these things, the closer we can get to figuring out what these things are and how they exist. We'll see if we can find more later.
That was good.